What up, and welcome, Rival Fantasy community. I appreciate you guys for joining me as always. I am your host, Neil Maligno. I am here solo dolo this week. I do have lots to talk about. We have fantasy football to talk about. We could talk about the regular NFL, the playoffs. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I did say that I wanted to go live today. I know when we talked about it last week, some people were mentioning how they, didn't necessarily have fantasy playoffs anymore. Their season was over as of last week. That happened for every single one of my leagues, but there are some people who are still playing. So we will answer your questions as well as just talk about whether you guys won your championships. If you didn't win your championships, I want to know, how you guys did. I promise to come back today and do that. So as always, I come through. I promise, as always, I will come through if I say I will come through. We'll also, like I said, talk about some of the latest stuff going on in the NFL playoffs, all that kind of good stuff. Now, of course, this live stream is brought to you by Rival Fantasy Sports. If you're not familiar with Rival Fantasy, I will go ahead and bring it up on the screen here for a second. This is Rival Fantasy, where you can play not only season long, which of course is over, like we just talked about, but you can also play things like challenges, like you see here on the screen. Very simple things like CeeDee Lamb versus Justin Jefferson, who will score more fantasy points. Straight to the point, lots of fun. As you can see, someone has a $5 bet on CeeDee Lamb. He has been going crazy this season, especially as of late. So if you wanted to take Justin Jefferson, you would simply click on him, put the amount you want. You can go less than what's already on the line. You can do the same exact amount, or you can even do more. And maybe somebody else will come along and take, more of that bet that you placed. So this is one type of play that you can do on Rival Fantasy. You can just skip through them if you don't like what you see and just keep going. Here's Dak Prescott over Justin Jefferson. And you can also search names too. So if you have certain players in mind that you want to actually you're just looking for that player, I could look up, Adams, and Devontae Adams stuff will come up. So it's just whatever you want to do. You go on there. It's a lot of fun. I've already played a bunch this week. I actually have social challenges as well, which are basically where you can create your own challenge and then send it to a family member, a friend, put it on social, whatever you want to do. And so I've done a lot of these this week. I actually lost to, shout out to Justin and George over at Toilets and Titles. I lost to them both on the same social challenge. I did Jonathan Taylor versus Devin Singletary for yesterday's game. So I lost there already, but I do have a lot already still on the line out there. So I'm excited about that. And again, the social challenges you create from scratch, and you can send them out wherever you want. Otherwise, if you just want to play with the challenges that are already here, already system generated, you can. And as you see here, we also have NBA. When MLB season starts up, we'll have MLB. So it just depends on whatever you're into. Then we also have Fantasy Bingo, which is basically you select a roster of players, as you can see here on the right side of the screen. I selected these players. There's no salary cap. You don't have to draft them. There's nothing like that. And then you just get cards generated for you, and you try to hit bingo on these cards. As you can see, I almost got it here. I missed by 2 here. But all you're doing is $1, buy a card, pick your players, the card's generated for you, and you hope to hit the achievements. If you hit it, it'll look something like this. It'll light up yellow on your screen, and you'll see it like this. I won $204 on this card, again, just for $1. This is the roster I picked. If you look at the game log, it does show you what players did what, so you also know how you won it, like who won it for you and what they hit on the card. So really fun. Again, these are 2 different styles of play. If your fantasy season is over, if it's not, whatever the case is, this is just another fun way to play. Like during the playoffs, this is gonna be fire for me. Like my fantasy season's over. I don't have to set up lineups no more, but I can go in here and create challenges all playoff long. I can create bingo cards all playoff long. That's a lot of fun to me. That's enticing. So if it is for you and you haven't signed up yet, hit the link in the bio, in the description here, not the bio, in the description, you'll get a special bonus offer there. So go check that out. Now, I do know Michael Brown is here in the comments, so I do want to answer his questions really quick before we talk about anything else. So let me go ahead and bring these up. Michael Brown, shout out to you for dropping this question. This question was actually dropped before we even went live. So shout out to Michael for supporting the show, watching, dropping questions in the comments. All that kind of stuff means a lot. Also, if you're watching, if you can go ahead and like this episode, hit subscribe, do all those things. I know they take 2 seconds for you. It means nothing, but for us, it means the world when you guys do that. So please go ahead and like this episode and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Again, we're facing off versus the YouTube algorithm. You guys are our only way to beat it, only way to, gain leverage in it. So we really appreciate it. Now to Michael's question here, let me go ahead and check it out. All right. So He's asking Juwan Johnson or Laporta. I'm worried about Laporta getting pulled early. Also, pick 3: Bijan, Brees, A-Chain, or Zamir White. That's PPR scoring. Okay, so this is the risk with your league playing in week 18. This is why most leagues end before now, because you just run this risk of players not playing. So, like, for instance, let's talk about, while I'm answering Michael's question here, like, let's talk about the fact that yesterday, 2 games were played, right? Lamar Jackson didn't play. There's just a bunch of different players who don't play all the time, right? So if you got all the way to this point because of Lamar Jackson helping you get there, and then you get to your championship game and Lamar Jackson doesn't play, that sucks. So this is why a lot of leagues stop. Then on the flip side, though, if you're like, you got the Texans Colt game, I mean, everyone played because they're fighting for the playoffs. So their season isn't over. So those players you can still use, but it sucks to have that situation where right now, Michael's asking this question simply off the fact that he's worried Laporta's going to get pulled. And so that's tricky. It sucks that, he has to, play that game. So I would always, ask your, leagues to adjust these kind of things so that you don't have to be in this situation where you have to make these kind of decisions, because at the end of the day, like, we really can't, control whether the team is going to pull the guy or not. We can't, decipher that. So, I mean, for Laporta, if we look at it, he's expected to play. I know he was also hurt, so this even creates more of an issue on whether, the team is not going to play him because they're in the playoffs type of situation, right? So it creates more of a problem for you. Obviously, Laporta and Johnson aren't in the same realm in terms of ability. Michael knows that. But I think that I have a feeling Laporta will play. There's, the one thing you have in favor of you for this one, Michael, is that Laporta is, chasing some records here, some team records. So I'm looking, like, for instance, right now, if I pull up, let me just pull this up to show you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's bring it up on the screen. So okay, here we go. So if you see here, it says Laporta has some records to chase today. 1 catch to set NFL record for receptions by a rookie. 3 catches to set new Lions single season record for catches by a tight end. And 217 yards to set NFL record for receiving yards by a rookie tight end. So I don't think he's going to hit that one, but these other 2 he can hit. And I think teams do favor keeping their player in a game to hit those records. We're thinking about that with, like, Puka this week, right? Matter of fact, let me throw this poll up for you guys as well while we're on this topic. Let me throw it up. I want to get this question over for you guys. I have a poll in the chat right now for you guys. Will Puka, Nakua break both rookie records today? So I want to see what you guys think about that. It's up there now. But yeah, so in the situation like this, Michael, because he has this opportunity to break these records, I do think he's going to play. The question now is, Neil, once he gets that 1 catch, once he gets those 3 catches, are they going to pull him? It's possible. I honestly, if you told me that Laporta was going to have 3 catches today and he had these type of records on the line, I'd still play him over Johnson probably. So I'm going to tell you to start Laporta, because Johnson doesn't necessarily, I mean, he's always beat up. He doesn't necessarily, I know he's had some hot games the last 2 weeks, so it makes it a little more harder for you to, make that decision. But I still would roll with Laporta. I think the Lions, their coaches aren't the type of team to, to back off necessarily. It's just not their thing. So I would play Laporta this week. And again, you're right. It's definitely a legit concern, Michael, about him being pulled early. It's possible. But I would take that risk. I would take the gamble. I mean, there's nothing else you could do, man. You play the best player. It hasn't been confirmed that they're going to pull him or pull him early. No one has said that necessarily with confirmation. So I would just play it as if he's not going to, knowing he has those records on the line. It'll be exciting for the team to see how close he can get to them. So I would trust him. And then you said pick 3: Bijan, Brees, A-Chain, or Zamir White. So for me, White, definitely. That's 1. Brees, definitely. That's 2 for me. And then it really comes down to me for A-Chain or White. Now, we know Jacobs isn't going to play already, so that's a good sign. We know that the Raiders are fighting with a lot on the line, and they're not playoff bound, so that's not a situation. Now the Dolphins are. The Dolphins, are locked into the playoffs. It's set in stone, so they're not fighting for as much today. I would say health is more important to them, staying healthy. I would go White here. I would go White just because if you think about it, I mean, they're fighting for the head coach's job. They're fighting for the GM's job. They're fighting for their own jobs and their ego, their pride, their self-respect. So I think White should have a really good game today. He's playing Denver, which is a really good opportunity for him. So I would roll Bajan, Brees, and White. I'm sorry, I said Rachaad White earlier too. I don't know why I said that. So yeah, I would roll Bajan, Brees, and White. I don't know if I was a little confused there in the beginning. So that's how I would roll. I would leave A-Chain out of this just because of the fact that his team is locked into the playoff spot. He runs a little bit of a risk of injury, so they may go easy on him. And so that's just where I'm looking if I have to try to find a reason to balance this out. But honestly, these are all great running backs this week. So I don't think you can go wrong. I don't think there's a bad decision you can make. I think to me, all these guys are top 15, top 12-ish, type running backs. So I don't think you're going to go wrong no matter what you do. But if it was me personally, I'd roll Bajan, Brees, and White. You also asked Kyler or Love. That's a good one. Both of these guys are going to play, of course. For me, I mean, Kyler's been doing, really good, honestly. It's been good to see, him rolling the way he has. Maybe the Cardinals might not be happy about it because I'm not sure if they know what they're going to do, next season, but he's been playing really well. And then Jordan Love at the same time has also been playing well. So both of these guys have been doing really well. And Jordan Love's been doing it against pretty, solid defenses too, which has been interesting. Chicago is not a phenomenal defense this season. So it's a team he played the first week of the season. It's a team that he did well that first week of the season. He opened a lot of eyes, Jordan Love, in week 1, and it was off the back of, playing against the Bears. So that was a big part of it. I think that both of these guys are top 10 this week, top 12 quarterbacks. So they're definitely both starter worthy. I would say if we're looking at, I think they're both pretty close too, to be honest with you, Michael. I think it's again another situation, just like I said earlier with those other running backs. I don't necessarily think you can go wrong. If I'm picking here, I think, Jordan Love has probably the better matchup that I like more. So I would likely roll with Jordan Love here. But Kyler Murray has been, trying to prove things out there. So, and there are people who say, Kyler is the starting quarterback next year. There's no concern about, them going after a rookie and, that causing any kind of issues, but I still like Jordan Love today. I think that, they are playing for something today. If they win, it matters a lot. So again, when teams are in that position, I like the extra motivation. I'm a narrative guy. I like the idea that, they're being pushed with a little extra motivation for something. And so the Cardinals are not fighting for anything. And they're honestly better off if they lose. And then the Packers are playing for something. They're in the hunt. They're in that, potential playoff situation. There's that mathematical equation that comes together that the Packers can make the playoffs. So I would roll with Jordan Love on that. All right. Thank you for the questions, Michael. Of course, again, guys, if you haven't liked this episode, go ahead and like it on YouTube. And of course, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It means a lot to us. Again, I know it's very simple and easy for you. It means nothing. It's very quick. Bang, bang, boom. But for me, it means a lot. All right. Jeff H here is asking Gibbs or Walker. Gibbs or Walker. Two really fun running backs here. I just mentioned that I do believe the Lions are going to play their players and, shouldn't be pulling a guy like Gibbs. I know he wasn't great last week against the Dallas defense, which is a good defense. I mean, it's not something terrible to worry about, but it was not great, to see that happen. And then on the flip side, Walker, again, is he healthy? Is he not healthy? This is like the same thing we go through every single week with him. He did return to practice late in the week, so that was a positive sign. Again, he's playing Arizona, which is a really good matchup. So I would lean Kenneth Walker here. I like the matchup way more. He's healthy according to everything we've seen. He does play well when he's healthy, and the team leans on him. And so, yeah, I would roll with Walker here, Jeff. Two good options, but I like Walker more in this situation. So that's where I'm at with that. All right, cool. Drop Jeff's question down. Thank you guys for those questions. I do want to talk about like, uh, this week. This week we had the Steelers play the Ravens already, and the Steelers won. Again, I told you Lamar Jackson didn't play, which again, big bummer for those playing in fantasy. Just one of those situations. If you're playing in Week 18, it's what comes with it. But Najee Harris had a really good game. Deontay Johnson had that huge catch for a touchdown. So it was good to see them come to life a little bit. I'm not a Mason Rudolph fan. I can't stand the guy, honestly. So not going to talk about him at any length. Tyler Huntley was just blah. Obviously he's no Lamar Jackson. The running backs didn't really do much. And then from the wide receivers and the pass catchers, Isaiah Likely scored a touchdown. He's been really great since Mark Andrews, got injured, and which we don't like to see, but it's curious to see like how will they use him next season? Like, can they really go back to just, Mark Andrews being the sole focus at tight end and Likely not being used really? Like, he's been great since Andrews got hurt, and it's not something that we want to see or we want, but how can they find a way to use both these guys? You know what I mean? How can they find a way to use both these guys? They're really talented, and they have to figure that out. They can't just push Likely off like that as soon as Andrews comes back. And then the other game, Texans and Colts, I was excited about this one. I wanted to see CJ Stroud and the Texans win. No hate to the Colts fans out there, but I did want to see that. And they won. So CJ Stroud was out there looking like the MVP rookie quarterback that he's been all season. No interceptions, just leading his men to a W. And so he looked great. Singletary again did his thing decently. Nico Collins, monster. Now you wonder, again, this is a great team going into next fantasy season. If you're playing in Dynasty, if you're looking forward to, next season already, these are guys to really watch. And again, if you're playing the challenges or bingo on Rival Fantasy, if you're at rivalfantasy.com or you have the Rival Fantasy app, these are players that I'm going to be using, no doubt. Stroud and Collins, like I'm all in. So this is great to see. Dalton Schultz had an okay game, but Beck got a touchdown and not him. So that, held him back a little bit. But overall, really fun games this past weekend. Obviously, we have, a lot of good games this week. More importantly, a lot of playoff implications happening there. Hold on. Jeff said, I could also sit White or Cook for Gibbs. Would you play Gibbs over those other two guys? I don't think so. I would start White and Cook. I think you're doing right with that. You got the right call there. Don't second guess it. I would start White and Cook over Gibbs. I know it sucks. It sounds weird saying to bench Gibbs, but that's just, the position you're in. You got a ton of good running backs, and that's why you're in this, championship, I'm assuming, because you have a bunch of good players. So, I mean, congratulations on either drafting yourself to this position, trading yourself into it. Did you focus on running backs early? I'd love to hear, how you got all these running backs, or was it a smaller league so that, the running backs were more plentiful in your draft? What was the case, Jeff, that got you to that kind of situation? Because those are, a hell of a group of running backs. I don't even know if you've had any injuries or anything that, you could have had some other running backs possibly even. So, I mean, shout out to you for getting that core, but no, I wouldn't start Gibbs over White or Cook this week. If you're in the fantasy playoffs, we got to throw some hands out there for you. I mean, congratulations to you guys. And again, I wanted some of the 10 team league. Hey, that's solid. There's no reason for, people to be letting you grab all those top running backs. So shout out to you for getting them. Shout out to Jeff. Big salute. I did check on the Puka poll. It looks like as of right now, everyone believes he's going to break the record. No one said no. So everyone believes Puka is in line to break those records this week. It'll be fun to see today. I'm really excited about that kind of stuff. The players who are going to break the records potentially, I'm excited about that today. Especially if you're out of the fantasy playoffs, the season's over for you. Again, you're doing challenges and bingo on Rival. But if you're looking at the games today, you're looking at the playoff situations. You're looking at the rookie records. These are, not just rookies, but yeah, mostly all rookie records. These are all the things that make today exciting. Also, Jeff said no injuries for running backs. I drafted Diggs and Amon-Ra my first two picks, and Josh Allen. Damn, man. So you drafted Diggs and Amon-Ra, two of the most elite wide receivers in football. You got Josh Allen, one of the most elite quarterbacks in football, and then you still got all those running backs. So those people were slacking in your league, man. You crushed it. You definitely, dominated the draft. No question about it. You crushed it. So congrats, man. Again, just awesome. Coral, what's up? What's up, Coral? I got a few questions. I'm fighting for my chip, and I have a question for my wide receivers. Full PPR, AJ Brown or Devontae Adams? Shout out to you, first of all, Coral. Couple horns for you. Get the horns out there. Let's get you an applause. You and Jeff over here are in the championship game, but this is a tough one. Well, who else are you starting at wide receiver that you can't start that you have to pick between these two? AJ Brown obviously is, one of the most elite wide receivers in the league. He's had a great, fantasy season for the most part, even though the Eagles have really struggled towards his back half, like these last, 5-6 games. And he's had a downturn because of that. And they're playing the Giants. While I know a lot of people hate on the Giants and the Giants haven't had a great season, their defense is pretty solid. It doesn't mean they're going to stop AJ Brown, though. No one really stops AJ Brown. So it's not really a concern. On the flip side, again, the Raiders are playing for a lot. You guys are going to hear me say this a lot today. All these extra motivations, right? Keeping your head coach from getting fired, getting him hired actually to be the long-term head coach. Teams fighting for the playoffs. Teams fighting for incentives, which I do want to bring up in a little. Players fighting for incentives, which I do want to bring up here in a second on the screen as well. These are all motivating factors that aren't necessarily there at other points in the season, but they are like, hyper focused this week because it's the last game of the season. So someone like Devontae Adams, who he's playing Denver, so pretty good matchup. There is, their secondary is okay, so there's definitely a chance that he'll have some rough go. But let's talk about the fact that this dude had 21 targets last week. 21 targets. And of course, you're going to say, Neil, what's the likelihood of that happening again? What's the likelihood of Devontae Adams having 21 targets? It's not high because it's just not normal, right? But Aiden O'Connell is also trying to persuade this team, whether it's the coaches that are there now or a different coach, that he can, play starting quarterback for this team. And so he is going to try to get the favor of his vets, right? Of leaders of the team. Devontae Adams is a leader of this team. And so you want someone like Devontae Adams to speak up for you, to say, you're the guy, you don't need to replace this guy. You don't need to draft a rookie with a high draft pick to replace Aiden. Aiden is more than capable of, carrying this starting job. And so he's hyper focusing on Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is the best playmaker in the offense. There's no Josh Jacobs. There's no Michael Mayer. So there's all these things happening where Devontae Adams, of course, is going to get, crushed with targets again today. Lots of times this season, he's had 10 plus targets, many games. He's had more than not, I think. But at the end of the day, he's had 2 weeks with 20 plus targets because the quarterbacks know that he's the man in this offense, and that if they don't go to him, their chances of winning are a lot less. The Raiders are playing for a lot of pride today. And so Devontae Adams, you have to try to get him in your lineup, Coral. And it's tough to ever say to sit AJ Brown. That's just not, something I can say, especially with Devonta Smith unable to play today, I believe. So I'm not going to tell you to sit AJ Brown. I would tell you to play him. Devontae Adams, sure, you could say, he has the rookie quarterback. What if things just blow up in their face today? They're facing an okay secondary. Who knows? So then you have to sit somebody. So you sit Devontae. But Coral, I would ask you, who else do you have? Who else are you starting that you can't squeeze one, both these guys in the lineup? I would like to know that. Do you have a flex spot? Who's starting in your flex? Who's the other wide receivers you're starting? What's happening here that you can't start both of these guys? So I prefer some more context to answer fully, but if I had to just pick it off of this, I would say start AJ Brown. Jeff H said, I also forgot that I had Monster. Dude, come on. What is, shout out to Jeff, man. What a haul at running back, man. Just absolutely crushing it. You absolutely crushed it at running back. Obviously, Raheem was a good pick for you because, with everything going on there, you didn't know he was going to have the kind of season he had this year. So, and you had it covered with A-Chain. So that must have been a waiver pick, I'd assume, for you probably, right? Unless you drafted the rookie because you had belief in him before the season. Chris Calhoun, Mitchell, Herbert, or Hilaire, half PPR. All right. Half PPR, Mitchell, Herbert, or Hilaire. It's a good question. It's a valid question. So let's see what we got. Let me see their matchups really quick just to remind myself. All right, Elijah Mitchell is playing the Rams. He's playing the Rams. We got Herbert. We talked about who the Bears are playing earlier. Who was it? Green Bay playing the Packers. So that's a good matchup for Herbert. Herbert, last checked, is he healthy today? Let me just double check. Yeah, he was limited, but he should be good. He's been doing really good the last 2 weeks. I was a big Herbert. If you guys have been watching since before the season started, or as the beginning of the season, I'm a big Herbert fan, Khalil Herbert fan. I know he had, that period of injuries and everything where he didn't get to really play, and other guys were, looking good out there. But Herbert is a really good running back, and they're feeding him the ball, at a major clip. And so that matters, right? That matters at this moment. And then you also know, if you've been watching the show, that I hate Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a passion. And, it is what it is. So I would definitely go Khalil Herbert here, Chris. That's definitely the route I would choose. I understand Mitchell had a pretty good game last week, but I'm not going to, rely on the guy who had his first good week or whatever. So, like I said, I hate Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I would go Herbert, Chris. DD Red Solo Cup 32. Who should I play today? Fields or Jordan Love? Need to know. Also, Zamir White about to go crazy. He is. Zamir White is about to go crazy, sir. I'm a Raiders fan. I don't know if you know that. I'm not sure if you've been in the chat before, but I'm a Raiders fan. I'm looking for a huge game from Zamir White. Again, the Raiders are playing with everything on the line, right? Like all their pride. They're fighting for their head coach or their interim coach. They're fighting for the general manager. They don't want to see this organization flipped on its head again. Zamir White has put on a hell of a show while Josh Jacobs has been out. So, he's going to keep that train running. There's no reason for it to stop. The Raiders are going to, force feed him the ball. So I expect a really good game from Zamir White. So you're correct on that. With your Justin Fields, Jordan Love question, I did talk earlier about Jordan Fields. About Jordan Love. I'm a big fan of Jordan Love. He's playing the Bears, who he, entered the season playing in week 1 and played really well. But when it comes to someone like Justin Fields, I'm not going to tell you to bench Justin Fields. It's just not going to happen. I'm a huge Justin Fields fan as well. And I know, again, these two played week 1, and Jordan Love did get the better of him in terms of fantasy points. But I'm a monster Justin Fields fan. Again, you guys, I'm going to keep saying this. I'm going to keep going back to my narratives, that I'm a big fan of narratives. I'm a big fan of motivators. And Justin Fields is another player who is highly motivated this week to play well. Because why? He is the offseason discussion in football. He is what everybody is talking about. Are the Bears going to draft a quarterback with the early pick and trade Justin Fields, or are they going to keep Justin Fields and not draft the quarterback? That is going to be the discussion the entire offseason, leading up to the NFL draft, all that kind of stuff. Now, me as a Raiders fan, I would love for them to go trade for a Justin Fields. I think the Bears are crazy to try to replace Justin Fields. I don't think that's the answer. But many believe that is. So when the people inside the Bears organization who make those calls may believe it is, I don't believe it is. So I love when, a quarterback has the ability to run the ball, DD. That's my thing, right? So Jordan Love can do it. He just doesn't do it like Fields does. I like that upside. I like that, a quarterback who could run the ball completely raises their floor for me. And so I would definitely lean Justin Fields here. I don't think you can go wrong. So I always say, Red Solo, like, fall on your sword. I don't want you to not go with your gut, go with the guy that you feel really strongly about. So if you feel really strongly about Jordan Love, for sure, I mean, whether you win or lose, it's your decision, of course. I'm just trying to give you my insights. But I like Justin Fields more. That's just the fact. Like, I'm not going to pass up on, on the fact that he has that crazy upside. You did ask, what are the odds that Fields put up a dud? Like, I got Green Bay winning for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's high that he puts up a dud. It's always there because it just is. It's Justin Fields. But how often has he put up a dud this season? I mean, besides the weeks that he was injured, he couldn't play. Against Minnesota, he had a bad game, but I believe that was when he got injured. Other than that, he played Minnesota later in the season, had a bad game, so they kind of been like a kryptonite for him. It's usually against the tough defenses that Justin Fields, if he's going to struggles. I don't think Green Bay is that kind of defense that's going to limit him in that way. And again, I think that he has so much that he's playing for, and that, he's a leader of men. He has to prove this, right? Like, it means everything to him, basically, and what they do going forward. But yeah, like I said, if you said here, I just think Love is more consistent. I like Fields a lot too. I'm an Ohio State guy. So that's what I'm saying. So if you feel more highly about Jordan Love this week, you feel more confident, I say go with him because, again, if you win, great. It was your call. If you lose, again, great. It was your call. You don't want to go, I lost because of Neil. You know what I mean? Because that'll suck. But if you go with you lost because of what you felt like, you'll be less mad at me, and I'll be okay with that. I don't want you to lose either way, though. I think they'll both will have good games. But if you feel more highly about Jordan Love, certainly just do it. But I think, Justin Fields just has a higher upside. I like the floor of his, running ability and rushing touchdowns in. I don't see, Green Bay slowing him down to a point where, where he's going to be, rendered useless or, what you were mentioning, like just complete dud. Again, just think about it. Think you're him and you're like, hey man, this organization is trying to move on from me right now. Potentially the fans are calling for a rookie, quarterback in the first round. I have to shut everybody up. I have to prove to them who I am, whether they keep me or not. Red Solo said, bet I'm gonna play Fields. I got you, full trust. Listen, man, again, I think they'll both play good. You go with your gut. That's just my opinion, Fields. He also said, I'm blaming you for everything, but if I win, I won't pay you anything. Shout out to Judy Red Solo Cup for keeping it a buck up in here, keeping it 100. What I would like you to do is let me know if you do win. Everybody who's in here asking questions, please, we'll be doing live streams all off season. We're not one of those channels that go away when the NFL ends. We're gonna be talking about basketball, baseball, all that kind of stuff, but I'll continue to talk football all off season. I love dynasty football. I play in a lot of dynasty leagues, so we'll continue to talk that and prepare you for next season. So we'll be doing more live streams, more, of course, recorded content too, but I want you guys to come back. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe because I'd love to hear how you guys did on the flip side. And if I helped you, great. Don't come blaming me. Don't blame me. Don't do it to me, Red Solo Cup. Don't do it. But shout out to you guys for being in the championship. And for playing in week 18. Playing in week 18 takes some serious, balls to do. So shout out to you guys for that. But again, please like this video. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. I'm trying to get us to 500 subscribers, before the season ends. But we're falling a little short. We're at like 480, I think, right now. But I mean, tons of love from the community. I really appreciate you guys. All season, you guys have been awesome. So I really appreciate that. And again, I hope, you do well, Solo, regardless. I don't know what to call you. Red, Solo, Cup, DD, so many names here I could use for you, but shout out to you. Shout out to you for, being in the championship. And I hope you do win. I hope you, come back and let me know. Do I even play Stephon Diggs? Again, it depends on your other options and whether you feel like you have better options. It's really tough. I mean, he's been terrible lately though. Just bad. Yeah. Who are your other options? That depends on, who else you have. Also, I want to make sure I get some of these questions up here. Coral said, I have Tyreek and Amon-Ra, so these are my locks. I crushed it at wide receiver this year, but that means my running backs are bad. Okay. I mean, yeah, Coral. I mean, it doesn't mean that your running backs are bad, right? Like you could have drafted well at all of them. You might have just hit some bad luck or, took a chance on a person and it didn't pan out. It happens all the time. But yeah, you did crush it at wide receiver. So you have Tyreek and Amon-Ra, and then you're going to have to start either AJ Brown or Devontae. Yeah, I would go AJ Brown. Again, I know he hasn't been as hot lately and that the Eagles have struggled, but they're closing out the season. They're going into the playoffs. They're trying to get things right, to be ready for the playoffs. And I think they just hit a little, overconfidence, overthinking things. They were tearing it up earlier in the season, right? So something changed late here in the season, whether it was injuries, whether it was, overthinking things, whether they got too confident. But I just don't ever doubt, a guy like AJ Brown. So yeah, I'm not going to do that this week. So I would start AJ Brown, and it just sucks that you can't get Devontae in, but I think that all of them are, you crushed it at wide receiver for sure. Coral said they subbed. Thank you very much. Thank you. Shout out to you. It means a lot. Again, give you an applause. Really appreciate you guys. Again, it means a lot to me. You guys showing that support. Let me see here. Where I'm trying to catch up in the comments here where I missed that. Let's see. Okay. Solo said, I'm messing with you. I know. You're going to win this week. It don't matter anyway. Ramsey about to have Diggs locked. Yeah, he probably is. That's the typical outcome. So Diggs has not played well recently. Then you have the fact that he's playing Ramsey. So, Ramsey is locked down central, and that's not a good matchup. How do you feel about Puka over Diggs? Do I dare play the man, the myth, the okay, so Puka, I think they're gonna play him. I mentioned it like at the top of the show. They're gonna play him to break those records. I think after he breaks the records, they're probably gonna pull him. So I don't expect him to, get those potential, 20 target, 15 target type situations. But then again, I mean, Puka doesn't need a lot of work to, to have a huge game. I mean, he's had better games than Diggs the last 5 weeks or so. And a lot of those come off of 7, target games, 8 target games, stuff like that. So I don't think it's that crazy, honestly, to start Puka over Diggs, who gets around that same thing a lot of times, 5, 7, 8 targets. And again, they're going to force feed Puka targets, especially until he gets that record. The question is he going to fall on those records and, then they just pull him? Those records that he's on, let's see, he can set a record rookie for catches if he has 4 catches this week, and for receiving yards if he has 29 yards. So he doesn't need like a ton of work necessarily to hit those, but those could be really, big plays. I would actually play Puka over Diggs, to be honest with you. Like screw it, right? Like go for it all. That's where I'm at with Puka and Diggs. Diggs just hasn't been, that great, like I said, as of late. So he's not exactly, an exciting option right now. Puka has so much to play for, so it's fun. And then you said Drake London. I mean, another guy hasn't played well lately. New Orleans defense is actually pretty good. I wouldn't take the risk there. I would probably start Diggs over Drake London. That's where I would be with that. Are you really pulling them though? Maybe for second half, and I'm feeling a touchdown from Puka too in the record bringing. I think both Puka and McVay want it. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, they want that rookie of the year. I don't think it's going to happen. I feel like even if he breaks the records, it probably won't happen just because CJ Stroud is a quarterback. He's been absolutely, crushing it. I talked about the fact that CJ Stroud made me care about Texans players in fantasy. If a player can do that, they've had a great impact. He's also gotten them into the playoffs. Like, it's going to be hard to unseat CJ Stroud from the MVP, rookie of the year conversation. Like, it just is. It's unfortunate that's the way the league goes, right? Like, they're always going to lean quarterbacks. And so, in this case, I think they're going to lean CJ Stroud because he did get the Texans into the playoffs, and he's just really, honestly, he's been phenomenal. But so has Puka, and Puka just happened to do it in a season where there was a quarterback who crushed it also. So, no, I agree with you. I think the Rams will keep him in a lot. He will play well. It's a big game for him. It's kind of a celebration, right? So, yeah, I think he's good to go, man. I would start him over, London. I would keep Diggs. I would just keep Diggs and Puka in, hoping that, that Diggs gets a touchdown or something, gets lucky. I'm just not very confident in Drake London to start him over him. He said, GG said, Stroud just put up a nice one. So I love Stroud. Again, I'm an Ohio State guy, but Stroud looks phenomenal. Yeah, Stroud is just crushing it, man. As a Raider fan, that was a quarterback I wanted them to draft. I wanted them to trade up, get Stroud. I really liked him over Bryce Young, all those guys, but didn't happen that way, and he's just crushing it. It's good for the Texans, though, man. Like, the Texans have been, a bad team for a while. It hasn't been a team that the fans could root for. They haven't been good for the NFL. They just haven't been fun. Even in fantasy, again, you didn't even want Texans players. Now look, you want CJ Stroud. He's crushing it with Nico Collins and Tank Dell, even though Tank Dell got hurt at the end of the season here. Dalton Schultz has been pretty decent for them at tight end because of CJ Stroud. The running back situation, Singletary has kind of popped off. He's made it fun. You know what I mean? So he's really been, a lot of fun to have there. So I like, what they've done in Houston, and he definitely has been a good player to have. Let me see here. Diggs, Puka, Ridley start 2 or replace Z White, Breece Hall, and flex. No, I would not replace Z White or Breece Hall. Diggs, Puka, Ridley start 2. All right, so man, you got some tough situations. You have some really tough roster. Starting lineup decisions this week, especially with it being for it all, for the championship. I'm not gonna bench Zamir or Breece. I really like both guys. Breece is that one lone, bright spot. If you look back, the week that Breece went off for like 40-something points, I had him in one of my videos as like my not so obvious lock of the week. He's a guy that, regardless of the quarterback, I don't give a damn. Like, he's that good. You just leave him in. He's not always going to crush it. There's going to be those down games, but you don't bench that kind of ability. Like, you just don't. It's just silly. You understand that because the team isn't that good, that there's going to be those down weeks, but you don't put that kind of talent on the bench, in my opinion. We talked Puka. We say start him. I'm with you on that one. And then it comes down to Diggs and Ridley. Ridley, even another guy, man. Like Ridley's been so up and down, up and down. He's had really good games, and then he kind of disappears a little bit. They're playing Tennessee today. It's kind of a great matchup for him. So it's one of those games where you feel like, I mean, he had his best game of the season against Tennessee earlier this year too. So, man, like, we're both down on Diggs, right? Like, we're both down on him. He's playing Miami. He's not played well. Let's see. I have the stats up in front of me. Against Kansas City, 6 fantasy points. Against Dallas, 9 fantasy points. Against the Chargers, 8 fantasy points. Against New England, 7 fantasy points. That's the last 4 games that he's played in. Now, you could argue Dallas has a pretty good secondary. Patriots have a pretty good secondary defense. But at the end of the day, it's Stephon Diggs, right? Like, nobody slowed him down earlier. For the first, 9 weeks of the season, he was, never had less than 14 fantasy points, I don't think, in PPR. So it's not like, oh, this guy just gets, shut down against good defenses. He tore up New England earlier in the year too. So I think that, I would, if we could stay away from Diggs, especially with a matchup against Ramsey, like I'd prefer to. But again, is he more likely to just, find himself in a touchdown situation than really? I would say probably. So it's just up to you, it's whether you want to believe, if you want to take a chance on Ridley, who's not as much of a stud or as consistent as Diggs has, typically been in his career, you're in your championship game, maybe just start to stud, Diggs and just roll with it. Even at his worst, he'll get you 6-7 points probably. I don't think he's had less than 6 points this season. Meanwhile, Ridley, on the other hand, can have a game where actually Ridley's been pretty consistent as well, man. Like in terms of 8 points or more type of situation, 7 or more. But again, yeah, you got some good comments in here. Is Diggs being guarded by Ramsey or Puka might have half the game, so half the play or half the playing time? Do you think Ramsey shadows him all game, or does Ramsey not even really play? These are all, this is made tougher because it's week 18, right? And we know that teams are going to be careful with their guys. They don't want to get them injured. They don't want to get them hurt. They're in the playoffs already. There's not really anything they're risking it for. Meanwhile, the Bills are in the hunt. Right, like the Bills are playing for something. The Dolphins aren't. Like the Dolphins are locked into the playoffs. So again, we have that extra motivation. The Dolphins may, hey, let's sit Ramsey. Let's not get him hurt out here. Diggs may get some garbage time touchdown. So I would play Diggs over Ridley. Jeff H, thank you for the info and advice. Of course, Jeff, no problem, man. Thank you for joining. Hopefully you like this episode. You hit the like button. You subscribe, Jeff. If you haven't, please do. Especially if you're about to bounce, please hit the subscribe button. Again, it means a lot to us. Hit like this episode. Show that support. Again, we're just sitting here giving out free advice, so it doesn't matter. But I appreciate it if you could hit subscribe. Oh, yes, I hate week 18 play. This is the only year I've done fantasy in the final week counted. Yeah, I've avoided all leagues where there's week 18 fantasy for me. So my dynasty leagues have never played week 18. And then any of the redraft leagues I played in, they finished, before this. Some even finished in week 16, crazy as that could be. But yeah, I mean, I want no part of week 18, but I did want to, have the live stream today, talk to you guys, chop it up, see if anybody already won their chips or if they did have questions, like in your situation here. So, I mean, congratulations for you getting there. I think you're going to win it, man. I don't think you got that problem. But definitely it sucks to play in it because you just don't know what these teams are going to do, man. It's just too real, right? Like we know they might sit Ramsey or not play him as much because they don't want to get him hurt. He's crucial. He's critical to the Dolphins having a good playoff run. So yeah, I like Diggs in later in the game. Maybe if the Dolphins if it gets out of hand or if it's a shootout, they may just pull some of their starters, not let them play or not let them finish. And there you go. Diggs is wide open for potential if they keep him in. So while they're fighting for the playoffs. So, that's how I look at it. I also did want to pull up some of these incentives really quick onto the screen that players are facing today. So this right here is incentives for today. I pulled this up from Fantasy Alarm. Shout out to Fantasy Alarm. So like Jordan Love has you guys can see that, right? Jordan Love has a $500K bonus if the Packers make the playoffs. So something like this, money's a motivator, guys. Let's not forget how that's one of the biggest motivators as we see in the NBA, right? Like a lot of people, they started this playoff in-season playoff bracket, not in playoffs, in-season tournament. A lot of people are like, who cares about an in-season tournament? Like, who gives a damn? The players clearly did. They wanted to play for that 500K. Geno Smith has $2 million on the line if the Seahawks make the playoffs. Baker has $1 million on the line if the Bucks make the playoffs. So there's a lot of, bonuses and stuff going around. Austin Eckler has some incentives happening. Madison, I'm not a fan of, so I don't really care about that. Again, rookie rushers. Bajan needs 52 yards to hit 1,000. Jamar Gibbs needs 85. So there's some things here. Okay, DeAndre Hopkins has some real incentives, for this week. So again, the Titans, have a guy who they're going to be paying out a bunch of money, extra money to if he hits these incentives. He has like 5 of them here. Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans. I also seen like Darius Slayton. Just, I think if he plays or he gets a couple catches, like he has a big incentive. So here we go. Puka Nacua gets set for rookie catches if he has 4 and rookie receiving yards if he has 29. Rashee Rice is 62 yards away from 1,000-yard season. Zay Flowers is 142 yards away. Now, I'm not saying like these teams are purposely going to lean into some of these, but for sure they know they're there. The player knows it's there. They're extra motivated. I'm not saying they're going to throw out their entire offense like, forget it. Rashee Rice needs 62 yards, but I believe, Mahomes knows it, Reed knows it, Rice knows it, and that will, push them a little harder. Sam Laporta, we talked about a little earlier today. He's facing a couple records, potentially for a tight end. So that's why I said I don't think he's going to get pulled, or if he does, it'll be after he does this. But again, I think they're going to chase a lot of these incentives. And this is just a quick look at some of them. But I do think that it's something to acknowledge in that case. You know what I mean? Let me see. Solo, yeah, it is huge. Those incentives are huge. That's why I said subscribe to crucial information. Most of the teams and owners will lean away from these incentives. yeah, that's exactly true. So in some cases, they will, right? So like you kind of wonder, like the Titans might lean away from some of these incentives. Well, obviously, I mean, some of them are really hard too. Like 14 receptions for DeAndre Hopkins this week will be tough regardless. But for teams that aren't in the playoffs, like the Titans, they have no real reason, I guess we could say, to push for something like that, right? Like they're not trying to give DeAndre Hopkins more money. It's not a motivating factor for them. So they will push away from that one. But I do believe the rookie ones, the teams will fight for. I do believe that. And of course, stuff like Jordan Love, Geno Smith, Baker, like those teams are trying to make the playoffs, so they do hope these players hit them in that case, right? But that's really out of their control in terms of, whether those quarterbacks do good enough for them to win their games. But yeah, I think they're just interesting to look at. I think they're interesting to kind of think about when you're making these decisions. Again, week 18 is a tough week to make the right fantasy calls. You put your studs in, you put the guys who have balled out all year. You look at some of these situations. I'm a big narrative guy, especially if you guys been watching all season. I'm big into what is the weather? What is the team chemistry like right now? What is the atmosphere like? What is the mood in the locker room? What is the drama coming out of there? What is, is this other quarterback about to try to take the starting job? Are fans calling for him? Like, I look at all these little things, is a quarterback a leader of men? CJ Stroud, I believe, is, does that matter? So I look at all these kind of things. Same thing with the Justin Fields situation. Like, to me, that's a big situation that's, unfolding right now. Yeah, it makes lovers feel that much harder. It does, man. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a tough week to play fantasy. It's a great week to finish in week 17, then sit back and just, this is great watching this, drama unfold and see how all these things unfold. But if you're playing for fantasy, man, it's, causes a lot of questions, a lot of things to think about, a lot of extra, situations you might not have thought about, prior to it. So it definitely, shakes things up, but it makes it fun. And again, I always want to remind people that, again, the stream is brought to you guys by Rival Fantasy. And so Rival Fantasy is the platform that, is the backbone of this show. And Rival Fantasy is a site. You can go to rivalfantasy.com, or you can just download the app, look up Rival Fantasy Sports in your app store, download the app. And basically, even if your season is over right now, if you weren't playing for a season-long championship right now, you can go on here, and in the NFL playoffs, you could be using this when the season is over for everybody in fantasy. You go on here, who will score more fantasy points, and you could just pick the side. That's all it is. Who will score more fantasy points? Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson. You pick the guy, You place your bet, you place it here, and then somebody else will pick up the other side of it if they like it. And you can just skip through these. Like this one has a $6 bet already on it. They believe Josh Allen will outscore Breece Hall this week. You can take Breece Hall, put whatever amount you want. You can just take $1 of it. You can do $5, whatever you want. And so this is a way I have a lot of fun during the season. All season long, I do this. I mix it into my season long stuff. But in the playoffs, super fun, especially when season's over for you in fantasy, like in terms of the season long stuff. You can also create your own challenges. I'm a Raiders fan, for instance. So when the Raiders play, I do a lot of Raiders specific social challenges. But say this week you I like Devontae Adams, let's just say, right? So I would just search for Adams. He would pop up here once they find it. Then I'm arguing with I don't know. I'm arguing with the Broncos fan about it. And I put Cortland Sutton in here on the other side. Then I can create this challenge, pick Adams, pick my amount, place the bet, right? And then once I place the bet, I can either just find one of my friends that are on Rival Fantasy. These are all people that I actually are, friends with on there. Or if you want to just skip that, you can hit copy link, drop it on your social, drop it on Twitter, drop it on Instagram, drop it on, a friend's text messages, whatever it is. So you can create your own challenges if you want. You can actually just take system generated challenges if you want. We have NBA, MLB will be on here. And then the other fun game is Fantasy Bingo, which again, you create a lineup. Let me do it right now with you guys really quick. You create a roster, no salary cap, none of that kind of stuff. You just pick players that you think will have good games today, or, can cover this, fill this card in for you. I think Justin Fields at quarterback. I like Breece Hall at running back. I also like Rachaad White at running back. At wide receiver, I'll take, let's go with, who do we want to take at wide receiver? Let's get crazy. Let's go Devontae Adams. We can put Puka on here just to have some fun. Puka Nacua. At tight end, we'll take Laporta since he's trying to break some rookie records. Kicker, we'll go with Arizona. Yeah, we'll take Myers. And then for our, let's go Zamir White. I'm a Raiders fan. So I submit this roster, right? I can make as many cards as I want, just one for $1, 10 for $10, whatever I feel like doing. When I do that, a card is automatically generated for me. And so once that card's generated, I click on the card, and these are the achievements that I'm trying to hit with these players. And so you don't have to do anything. You pick your players, you let the card get generated, and then you hope to hit for bingo. And just to give you an idea of what it looks like, this is like if you didn't win bingo, your card would look like this. You'd have some squares filled in, but you didn't hit like 5 across, in any direction. If you did win in bingo, your card would light up like this. It would be yellow, and it would look like this. You would hit 5 across. I won $200, $204 on this $1 card. And these are the players that I had used on this card. These are the achievements I hit. And if you want to look a little further, hit the game log, you'll see exactly what your players hit, like which players hit these achievements. So it's a lot of fun. These are fun ways during the during the NFL playoffs that I would say to still get involved in fantasy if you're a diehard like me, if you're really into the game. It's a lot of fun. There's actually a link in the description of this episode. If you have not signed up, for those making a first deposit, you can get a nice bonus there. And again, we have season long on here. So if you're playing season long right now on other places, I would highly suggest you get on here next season, create a league, check it out. We are trying to create all the best features, all the best options, your one-stop spot for fantasy. It's a lot of fun. And we're constantly evolving how we play this, how we set this up, how we create features and updates. And so I would highly suggest you guys check it out. Again, create an account on Rival Fantasy. There's a link in the description, whether you play the free game season long, whether you play challenges, fantasy bingo, that kind of stuff, whatever you do. We have in-league bet-in, so you can literally bet in your leagues, like on your game. So there's so much fun stuff. Go check it out. Let's get back to the chat here. Let's see. Is Monster Raheem in consideration over Diggs? Hell no, right? Yeah, I mean, again, it's a situation where the Dolphins are in the playoffs. How much are they going to play Raheem? He's been, workhorse for them all season. So, yeah, I don't think that I have much trust in him. Plus, he's a little beat up too. So he's one of those guys who this is an opportunity to rest him. And so they should probably rest him. You know what I mean? I haven't even checked if there's been any updates on his condition either. Let me just check if there's any new news on him, whether he plays or not and stuff. Let's see. Yeah, it says from Tom Pelissaro, Raheem Mostert and Jalen Waddle both listed as questionable and not expected to play Sunday night versus the Bills. So you don't have to worry about that one. For my other league, I just lost Kamara. Do I play Pierce Jr. of Cincinnati or Jeff Wilson Jr.? Let's take a look really quick at who these two guys are. What's their matchups looking like? So Pierre Strong, obviously, Cleveland. He's playing Cincinnati. I don't have a lot of faith in him. And then you said Jeff Wilson, right? They're playing Buffalo for Miami again. Raheem's not playing. Jeff Wilson has more of an opportunity to play. I would play, if I have to choose between those two, I would play Jeff Wilson. But if you have other options, if there's other, I don't know what your waiver situation looks like in free agency or any other players, but yeah, I would play Jeff Wilson between the two. I don't know why I'm not that into Strong, man. I don't think he's not the worst option in the world, but I'm not that crazy about him. I'll definitely check out Raw Fantasy. Hey, appreciate you for that. Just check it out. Just create an account, sign up, check it out. Maybe start a fantasy league on there next year. We have all kinds of stuff going on. It's a lot of fun. Really appreciate that either way, of course. And like I said, guys, reminder, if you're watching, if you're chatting along, if you're not chatting along, please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to us. As you guys can see, the chat is what I'm here for. So it's the best part of all this. It's 12:30, so football's kicking off in 30 minutes. So if you guys have any last minute questions, feel free to drop them. I don't want to hold you guys up until game time, so you can make any last minute adjustments and stuff, but definitely appreciate you guys for chopping it up with me today. This morning it means a lot. Let me see what else we got going on here. Any other breaking news going on that you want to talk about? Let's see what else is happening. What else is going on? Let's see what else is going on. Okay, some news here. I'm just going down the Twitter timeline, X timeline, whatever you want to call it. Eagles running back DeAndre Swift is not expected to play today. So that's kind of a big deal. You guys want to adjust your lineups for that. Trevor Lawrence is officially active. As you mentioned, Alvin Kamara is inactive. Desmond Ridder will be starting at quarterback for the Falcons again. So that's some interesting stuff there. Some last minute adjustments for people. Let's see over here really quick. Let me check one other spot. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence being back is good. You guys seen TJ Watt got hurt yesterday too? That sucked. He's had such a good season, and these damn injuries, just keep happening to him, which is unfortunate. Let me see here. Baker Mayfield's good to go. All right, yeah, most part. There's gonna be so much talk about this Justin Fields Jordan Love game, man. So much. Like, what if Justin Fields does eliminate the Packers from the playoff opportunity, plays great, he's finished the season strong? Like, man, what do they do at quarterback? It's such an interesting situation. Do I play Love or T-Law? Yeah, I'm not really big on playing players straight off back from injury, so I would still stick with Love on that. I don't like certain guys straight back from injury. Sometimes they get re-injured too easily. They take it easy, whatever the case may be. I wouldn't want to, bank on it. The Jaguars are in the, on the bubble and have a real chance to get in. You know what I mean? If they beat the Titans today, and the Titans are easy, sort of easy. My thing is this, like, I feel like the Titans will be sort of easy to beat today for the Jags, like regardless of who's at quarterback. And so what's the chances that like the Jags could just, lean on ETN? They don't really, the Titans defense isn't like some formidable defense that's going to, make it difficult for them. So I don't think that they have to lean on Trevor Lawrence necessarily. And they can lean on other options to win. And so, I'd still rather go with the more sure guy in Jordan Love. Thirsty over here. See, when you mentioned that narrative with the Bears limiting Green Bay and this and that, it all sounds fast. But yeah, what if Fields has a 35 piece on a career game? That's what I'm saying. Like, if he just goes crazy, right? Like knocks out the Packers, goes crazy in fantasy, puts up a monster game because like so many people seem so sure that Fields is going to get replaced, and I don't think it's that much of an obvious decision for the Bears. I honestly think like what if the Bears trade Fields, he goes somewhere, continues to play how Fields does, and continues to prove as a young quarterback, and the guy they draft like busts, like he doesn't play well, right? Like he just kind of sucks, or he doesn't play like Fields does. If they draft a player and he doesn't play as good as Fields, it's gonna be bad from a fan base perspective, all that stuff. So not good. Yo, shout out to Jen. He made it. He made it to the week 18 episode. Shout out to Jen. He's been here all season long. One of the best supporters of Rival Fantasy for sure. Really appreciate him. How's it going, Jen? It's going good over here, man. Me and DD Red Solo come over here chopping it up like crazy in the chat. He's been a really great dude today. Coral, Jeff H, Michael Brown, a bunch of great people in the chat today. A little late, but you got here. Hey, no problem, man. How did fantasy, wrap up for you? Do you got any games today? Did you, how did last week go for you? How did things, sum themselves up for you, man? How did they sum themselves up for you? Everything wrapped up. I forget last week if you already were finished or not. I forget. All right, so we looked at the contract incentives. We talked about their Saturday games. We're good with that. We talked about the playoff picture a little bit, which I think matters a lot for some of these players in fantasy. Jin won my fantasy championship. Shout out to Jin. Shout out to Jin. Man, we're on fire this season. I expected you to keep that fire going, man. Next season, do any of you guys play Dynasty or you guys all play redraft? Wait, so Strong Jr. or Jeff Wilson or who from waivers I sent the message? Maybe you didn't see it. Let me see. Oh, here, I didn't see the waiver one. All right, let's see. You got waivers. McLaughlin, Strong Jr., Jeff Wilson, Zach Evans. The rest are absolute bums. Well, I mean, even some of those guys look like absolute bums, right? Like, it's tough, man. I would say, could Jaleel McLaughlin have a decent game? He's been, coming on the last 2 weeks pretty decently. It's the Raiders. I know it's my team. I know their defense is decent, but they're by no means the one to like completely stop you. So he's a decent option, honestly, in PPR. Man, I'm trying to think here. I'm not a big Pierre Strong guy. I just gotta be honest. I'm not. He doesn't really get passing targets. That kind of stuff. Jaleel I like because he does get passing work. So I do like him in that sense. Jeff Wilson, again, with no Raheem playing today, do they go light on A-Chain? Does Jeff Wilson get a ton of work potentially, in this game? It's so possible, right? With what's going on with, the situation with the playoffs and people getting benched and getting less work. This is a situation where a guy like Jeff Wilson could just go crazy or he could do nothing. He could go crazy or he could do nothing. So it's one of those situations where I still think that I kind of like McLaughlin the most out of this situation, to be honest. Honestly, I do. I mean, Edwards-Helaire is who you said last there. And I'm not a fan of Edwards-Helaire at all. I've mentioned how much I hate Edwards-Helaire, but again, he gets some work, but I probably would pass on him as well. Yeah, I think McLaughlin, again, I like guys with the PPR upside that catch the ball out of the backfield, who have that opportunity to catch a pass and go 20 for a touchdown or 30 yards for a touchdown. We've seen McLaughlin have some, high level success this season, even in a very small window, but we've seen him have it, right? That he was capable of doing it. At some point, he looked like kind of like a favorite in the backfield there. And so, and against a tough defense like the Jets, he did it against too. So I kind of like the upside of McLaughlin here. For me, it's McLaughlin or Jeff Wilson. If you think Jeff Wilson's going to get a lot of work, then, I can see it, but I just think it's kind of risky, right? Because we don't know if he's gonna have a lot of work or not. whether we think it's going to pan out that way or not. So yeah, I think I would lean McLaughlin. It's a tough one though. I would lean McLaughlin. Yeah, Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's another decent option though. You do have Kareem Hunt as an option. I like Hunt more than Pierre, right? In that backfield, even though people still kind of like Pierre more. I don't know why. But again, I think I might go. Because for me, yeah, man, I think I'm gonna go McLaughlin. I like the upside of McLaughlin. If you don't like it, I think like the safe option is, considered like a Jeff Wilson or Pierre Strong in terms of like rankings and stuff. If you're looking at rankings, that's who's gonna be ranked the highest. But I like the upside of McLaughlin. And I think the Raiders are susceptible to a player like that, making a playoff for them like that. They're, if you think about it, look at last week. Look at last week against the Colts. Jonathan Taylor went for almost 100 yards and a touchdown, rushing the ball. They had some players, some running backs catching the ball. Not a lot. They didn't throw the running backs a lot, but even Trey Sermon had some yards. So, the Raiders are susceptible to, these big plays, these wide receivers, these running backs out of the backfield. It's just one of their kind of I feel like it's one of their weaknesses. So I kind of like McLaughlin, but Wilson is fun. Wilson is a fun option when you know that Raheem isn't going to play. Jeff Wilson's kind of like a screw it, just go for it type of situation. You know what I mean? I can see it being a fun outlet to try. You know what I mean? If you just want to, screw it, go for it, have some fun with it. But you just say, oh, this is a different league than the A-Chain one, right? I know you mentioned you have A-Chain and Raheem, but that was in a different league. Jeff Wilson definitely has the ability, you know what I mean, to play well, have big games, to go off. And so in the situation like the Dolphins, they're already sitting Raheem. Someone's got to play at running back, right? A-Chain already has a history of, getting beat up a little bit. So will they take it easy on him? You know what I mean? Will they let Jeff Wilson because there's no harm in letting Jeff Wilson just run the ball. You know what I mean? There's no harm. They're in the playoffs. It's locked up. Raheem's resting. A-Chain, you kind of want to rest him. You kind of want to not get too crazy. It is Buffalo. I mean, yeah, Buffalo, but Buffalo's definitely beatable defensive wise. They're not the hottest. So I think it's something you should consider. I mean, last week Zeke had a touchdown against them. He didn't have a ton of yards in the rushing game, but Jeff Wilson's also able to catch the ball. Before that, the week before that, Eckler had 65 yards. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, think about the fact that he's going to catch the ball too a little bit. So it's up to you. I like Wilson as a fun, upside type play. I think McLaughlin is, a little interesting as well. So I would go one of those two guys. I would go Jeff Wilson if you believe that the Dolphins will give him that work. And then McLaughlin, if you don't really believe in anybody too much, but you're just going for a home run threat, there's a big boom bust potential. But yeah, I think Jeff Wilson is a legit, option this week. Jin said, thank you. I play redraft, hoping to get momentum going into next season. Yeah. Okay. Just a solo cup out here shouting you out, man. Won your fantasy championship. So happy for you, man. Happy to see that. Yeah, McLaughlin's definitely a pass catcher. I mean, they have Javonte Williams, so it's not like he's not going to be there, but McLaughlin definitely is a pass catcher. In the games when he did get a lot of, burn, he was having 20, 30 yards. I think 2 weeks ago against the Patriots, he had 30 yards receiving. But that's the thing is if you're playing in PPR, say he catches 3-4 passes, that's 3 or 4 points, plus 20, 30 yards, a couple more points, potential for a touchdown maybe if he gets lucky, a big play for a touchdown. And then if not, he's still going to run the ball 5, 6, 7 times maybe. He's been decent at running the ball. So, I mean, there's just, some outlets there, right, for points. And again, don't forget, Russell Wilson's benched. So you got Jarrett Stidham. I think Russell Wilson's a better passer there. If you bench Russell, I mean, Jarrett Stidham's not terrible, but I just think that you're going to lean more on, quick dink and dunk outlet passes. You're going to run the ball more because it's not Russell Wilson. No one's afraid to, hurt Jarrett Stidham's feelings or anything like that. So, it's a possibility, man. He is playing against the Raiders. He was with them last year. They let him go, and might be a little bit of a redemption for Jarrett Stidham to try to fire back at those guys to fire back a little bit of emotional damage. Oh man! All right, it's 12:45. The last week of football is about to kick off before the playoffs. The last week of fantasy football is going to kick off. Of course, if you guys have any last questions, I would love to answer them. I don't want to hold you guys to the last second and make you miss any last lineup adjustments or setting any lineups in any of the apps that you're in or anything like that. So I don't want to distract you from any of that. So you guys let me know if you have any last minute questions or things you're still fighting with, whether you should go that route or not. I definitely want to help in any way, shape, or form, like whatever it is. So you guys let me know. Don't forget to check out Rival Fantasy. Either way, you can play challenges and bingo throughout the playoffs. So don't let, the fantasy season long end for you, because you can still be playing fantasy all throughout the playoffs at Rival Fantasy. You also have NBA stuff there, MLB if you're in any other sport. So don't forget to check that out. Subscribe to this channel. Your support means everything to us. We're at almost 500 subs. We're like 480. So if you guys have any friends, family, you want to run around the house right now, grab their phone, subscribe. They'll never even know it. Show us some love. I'd appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, it's been a really good season. You guys have been awesome all season long. Again, we're going to continue to pour out content. This is not one of those channels that just go away when the fantasy season ends. We'll be talking fantasy season. We'll be talking fantasy content all off season. We'll be covering all the major things in the NFL, all that kind of good stuff. So don't go away. Plus MLB, NBA, all that good stuff. Jen said, Baker was scaring me last week versus the Saints. Thank God for the garbage time points. Yeah, I know. And I recommended him to everybody. I think to you as well, right? So I was starting him in places too. And I was like, damn, man, Baker better, pick up the slack right now because he's killing me. And then, it turned out to be all right. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't 25 plus type fantasy points, but he at least redeemed himself enough to where he wasn't like the reason you would lose, but definitely wasn't the reason you would necessarily win either. I think he had like 18, 19 points. I wanted more. I expected more, but it was New Orleans, so it's actually not a terrible against a pretty good defense. But I was hoping he would have more. Like earlier in the year when he played them, I think he had 20 plus points. And so I was kind of hoping for something similar to that again, but didn't play out exactly like that, but he was scaring me too. I was like sitting there watching and I'm like, bruh, come on, man, pick it up. Devontae decided to shove his goal. Yeah. Another one, man. Man, I'm a Raider fan, so when my Raiders don't do good, I get a little down. Devontae went crazy last week. But again, I was talking about it earlier, Jen. Like, the Raiders have a lot of narratives going on, a lot of stories, right? Like, they're trying to fight for their head coach. The interim coach. They're trying to keep his job. Aiden O'Connell's a rookie quarterback. He's trying to prove that, he's worthy of them not drafting another quarterback early to replace him. And so, of course, for him, the best decision is to go towards the, Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame quarterback, wide receiver, target him like crazy, make him happy, which in theory, helps his stats look better for Aiden because he's thrown it to one of the best wide receivers in football, but also it just gets like Devontae on his side, right? Like that's one of the big things is you want Devontae to go to the coaches or to the owner or to the future coach and say, Aiden is capable of, handling his job. Don't replace him because that's a big endorsement. So I think that he'll continue today to feed him too. So for anyone in this situation where they're thinking about, should I start Devontae? Is he the 1 point guy or the 38 point guy? I think he's not the 38 point guy necessarily because he's probably not going to get 20 something targets again. Although it wasn't his first time doing it last week, but this season, but still it's not, something you want to expect, but as they should. Since Pierce took over defense playing better and playing on offense too. Yeah. I mean, they're definitely a better team with Pierce, right? The question is he the best option? I think, last time in this situation, they had Bisaccia and he did really good as an interim head coach and then they let him go. and they hired, McDaniels. I think this time you let Pierce try it, man. I'm not big on like the Harbaugh and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I like the setup that's, Pierce is in right now. I think that he's a guy who knows that, like, hey, I don't know it all. And so I'll bring people around me and I'll call people and I'll ask for help and all this kind of stuff. And I think that's sometimes more valuable than the person who knows it all, right? And like knows they or thinks they know it all. We've seen Josh McDaniels crash and burn. He thought he knew it all. Bill Belichick not having the greatest seasons without Tom Brady, he thinks he knows it all. I think Harbaugh is similar to that, where it's like he's going to come in, he's going to want to be a general manager or call the shots. John Gruden was kind of like that. I'm more like, man, coach, let the coach coach. Let the general manager make those decisions. Like, I don't like where it's like the coach starts blurring the lines with the general manager, and it's too close for comfort for me. So, I mean, you want them to have say in it, but not like where it's like, does the general manager even matter? Because this head coach has too much power. And so I think with Pierce, they won't ever do that. And he would never do that because he knows he's not a general manager. And even as a coach, he knows that he's not, an offensive coordinator or this and that. And so I like that he's just a leader of men. He's got them boys pumped up. He's got them fighting. He's got them fighting for each other. He's got them, in this fun atmosphere. I think it's what they need. And so, yeah, I don't, Devontae, a top 2 wide receiver in the league, and he might not be too. Yeah, I do feel you. I definitely do. And he's getting older. So I know, like, a lot of these young guys are coming up. CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. A lot of people love Tyreek as maybe the best wide receiver. Curious what you guys think. If you were drafting for next year, who would you draft as the number 1 wide receiver? If you had the number 1 pick, you had to pick a wide receiver. I'm not letting you pick anything else. Who are you picking as the number 1 wide receiver as your first pick? Is it CeeDee Lamb? Is it, Tyreek Hill? Like, which route are you going? Because if we're looking at the stats on the year, and of course, players are injured, players miss games, all that kind of stuff. But in PPR scoring, CeeDee Lamb is leading everybody. You know what I mean? Tyreek Hill played 1 less game than him so far, but he's right behind him. Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown. Puka is at number 5. At number 5. Obviously, Justin Jefferson missed a lot of time, so we're not going to count him because he's, got beat up and everything. But, yeah, for fantasy only. So look up, you said Devontae or Jay Jettas. Oh, for fantasy, probably Chase. No. Yeah, I mean, Chase is another guy. He missed a couple games, and obviously he lost Joe Burrow, but Jake Brown has been pretty good even though. But still, Chase is like right outside the top 10 right now in PPR scoring. Again, he missed 2 games, but like there's just so many, wide receivers who have done really well this year. Nico Collins is cracking the top 10 right now. Keenan Allen is still up there. I mean, that's crazy. Keenan Allen is in the top 10 right now, in top 6 actually, and he's missed at least 3 or 4 games. He's missed the most games in the top almost 15, I think in the top 15 wide receivers right now, and he's still up there. So DJ Moore, another guy who Justin Fields has just, I wasn't sure Justin Fields would be able to, feed a wide receiver like that. So when they traded for him, I'm like, I don't know if I'm really digging it. On the flip side, he's having his best year of his career. So Justin Fields has been able to feed a number 1 wide receiver. That's significant. That's significant. And again, that's why the Bears are crazy if they trade Justin Fields. I'm not picking CeeDee Lamb until bottom of the 1st or 2nd. Right? It was first. Yeah. I mean, so you're not really buying the whole CeeDee Lamb being the best wide receiver in fantasy right now. Chase is right outside the top 10. He missed games and a bum. And let's not forget the elite connection between those LSU grads, Burrow and Chase, which hasn't been seen all year. Yeah, the Burrow thing definitely hurt. I love Chase. I love his attitude. I love his personality. I love the energy he brings. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you. He's definitely up there with one of the elite wide receivers. So he's definitely, now see, that's a player who might fall in the draft next year. And this is the kind of stuff I'm going to be talking about during the offseason, which is why I hope you guys are, still coming around and stuff, because someone like Chase, who you would have had to go way earlier, to get him this year, maybe he falls out of grace with some people, or maybe people get concerned about Joe Burrow's health and, the future of the Bengals and how they handle this. So Chase might be a guy that you get for, a bargain next year. Not that he's going to be like a late pick or nothing, but just every little hit of value you can get, is significant. It matters. And then someone like, Nico, who you got off a ton of value this year, you won't get next year because he's going to shoot all the way up the mark, the boards. So it's fun, to see this balance. And we're going to talk about all this kind of stuff all off season. Players who are moving up, players moving down, players you have to have, sleepers, all that kind of stuff. So, it's a really big thing for me. I also think Diggs is elite next year. Rasheed Rice, Zay Flowers, all super high picks. Love Rice. And that's a lot for me to say because I'm a Raiders fan, so I don't really like to say anything nice about the Chiefs. I really like what Rasheed Rice has done there. Zay Flowers has done well. People expected him to do pretty well. But Lamar Jackson is, goated, man. So yeah, any player on his offense I like a lot. But Rasheed Rice, man, the dude became the best wide receiver on the team. Outside of, obviously Travis Kelce getting all the targets and being great. But Rasheed Rice was the best wide receiver on the team. Had the most target, over 100 targets this year, moved all the way up to depth charts, the number one guy. And that was good to see because going into the year, a lot of people were like, is it Sky Moore? Is it Kadarius Toney? Is it Justin Ross? Like, is it MVS? Like, who's going to be the wide receiver, we like on the Chiefs? Is it just going to be kind of a blurry, wide receiver field because there's so many guys? Mahomes will just spread it all around. No. Rasheed Rice took that, ran with it, was kind of healthy all year, I believe, had over 100 targets, good amount of touchdowns. He just really did, shockingly well. So, yeah, don't sleep on Rice. He'll be sneaky wide receiver next season. Maybe we'll overlook him. Yeah, if people overlook him, take it all day. We're talking about a guy who has Andy Reid as his head coach, calling the plays, Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, and Travis Kelce is getting a lot of that attention for as long as he continues to play. Like, Rasheed Rice is a great guy to have. A lot of drops coming out of that KC camp, but not from Rasheed Rice, exactly. And he can be drafted in the third or fourth round and give you good production. Yeah, he's going to be a really solid, reliable target kind of guy, where you don't expect him to absolutely, go crazy, go nuts, have these 50-point games, but just consistent, steady, great production type stuff. People overlooked him this year. I drafted Rice. Oh, you drafted Rice? That's great. See, that's the kind of stuff that gets you into a championship, man. You drafted Rice. Those are the kind of things that you're paying attention. Whether you're just, there's all different kinds of paying attention in the offseason. That's why I think that, I'm definitely going to continue the content for you guys. I think it's super important. I think those who pay attention to football all year round have an advantage, right? Sure, you can just come along right before the season starts, these guys in their office leagues and that kind of stuff. And they just come along last minute, read some stuff, read some articles, get some advice or whatever, and they just run with it. But I think when you stay in tune with it all off season, you watch how the moves they're making, who they're pulling away from, who they're kind of showing more love to, where they're leaning, who they add at quarterback, who they, is there a new coach? What's the play calling like? All these things matter. And if you're watching college or the draft and the combine, like to pick up Rice, you had to know some things. That's a good move, Solo. Jerry Rice's kid with aging Kelce. Yeah. So, I mean, it's cool to see that you did that. And, and again, if you didn't draft him, but you picked him up off waivers when the time got right, it all makes sense. You know what I mean? You had to make those moves. And that's another thing is you have to stay active. You have to stay flexible. You have to stay, especially early on, you have to stay flexible where you're not totally committed to, a path where you don't make the right waiver moves or the right trades or, these kind of things. So that's another thing. You might not draft the guy, but then you still made the move when you needed to. And that's important, I think. All right, guys. So it's 12:57. I'm going to go ahead and start to wrap up today's episode. I appreciate you guys for joining me this whole entire time. Again, it means a lot. I do this for you guys. There's no charge involved. There's nothing. At some point, maybe there'll be some cool stuff we could do if we get, the subscribers to where we want to get it, the views and all that kind of stuff to where we get it. Maybe have super chats and stuff like that, where you guys can do other things. But for right now, listen, you guys are doing it perfectly. We're going to get everything to continue to grow. It's only going to get better and better. So today I did this solo. You guys know sometimes Brian is here, sometimes Bruce is here. So we'll continue to do that. Maybe we'll do some guests next year as well, which we didn't do any this year. We didn't have any special guests in terms of people who are not part of the rival team. So maybe we'll have some guests on for you guys next year as well. We're going to continue to do this again. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Like this video. Show all that love. We really appreciate it. What QB should I pick up? Rob Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Cole McCoy. Yeah, I know what you mean. They like to do this sometimes where you put a player on your bench for the championship game try to get that good mojo going. Maybe some Tim Tebow. Some Tim Tebow. I always liked putting him on my team. He was always a fun one. But yeah, Tom Brady is good, right? Get that championship, all them championships with that good mojo on your team. Cam Newton is fun, right? Like he says, you gotta be a difference maker. Not just any quarterback, a difference maker. He is one of those. Big Ben, hell no. I'm not a Big Ben fan. But he was good. He was great. He was, he definitely did his thing. Jen, new year, brighter future for Rival Fantasy.
Emotional damage.
Wrong button. Yes, let's go. But now, shout out, you guys are the real ones. So you guys are the real ones. Who should I get around? Yeah, get Brady his 8th. Just continue the legendary career. Continue that legendary career. Give him an 8th championship. People are going to be like, what the hell is Solo Cup doing here? Why is he picking up Tom Brady? What does he know that we don't know? That's what people are going to be thinking. Your opponents are like, what the hell's going on here? But yeah, guys, shout out to you. Good luck. Again, I'm going to be going live all the time. So I hope to see you guys in those chats. I want to know Solo Cup if you win or not, man. So whether you follow on social and let us know there, or if you catch up on another live that we do, whatever it is, man, I want to know. So don't just disappear after this. I want to know if you won your championship like my boy Jin here. Let us know. I want to celebrate with you, man. So let us know. If you guys want to follow on social, we're on like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at Rival Fantasy, just like the name. Otherwise, like I said, we do the live stream. So just subscribe, turn on your notifications if you want, so you don't miss the live streams. Because obviously I know if you miss a live, then you can't really chat. You'll just see the chat after the fact. But whatever you guys want to do, however you guys want to stay in touch, just do that, because I don't want you guys to disappear when the football season, fantasy season long ends. We got all the playoffs to talk about. We'll continue to go live every single week during the playoffs. Again, we're talking about other sports as well. So stick around, subscribe, tell your friends, grab family members' phones, grab your grandma's phone, grab whoever's in the house, grab their phone, subscribe to the show. Again, I appreciate you guys. Good luck, DD Red Solo Cup 32. I don't know what you want me to call you, which one, Red Solo Cup DD, but good luck to you today. Jen, congratulations again on another great season. Shout out to everybody who joined us today, had questions, just took part in the conversation, whatever it was. You guys are all goated. This is the Rival Fantasy Podcast. Of course, I am your host, Neil. We are going to end the stream now.